Welcome back to another episode of This Week in Comics. My name is Yule. I own Fantastic Comics in Berkeley, California, and let's get into our top 5 comics sold this week. It was a marvelous week for Marvel. Coming in at number 5, we have Doctor Strange, number 390. This is the last issue until Mark Waid takes over with a new number 1. Number 4, Barrier by Brian K. Vaughan and Marcos Martin. At number 3, we have Star Wars number 48. There's a million Star Wars titles, but this is always the bestseller. The runner-up spot number 2, we have Justice League No Justice number 3. Excellent issue. And taking the top spot this week, a new number 1 with Black Panther. This is Wakandans in Space. Mel Brooks should do a song about that. Did you read any of these comics this week? Let me know in the comments down below what you thought, and I'm going to let you know what I thought of some comics I read right now. First up this week we have Doctor Strange number 390. It's written by Donny Cates with art by Fraser Irving, not the series artist I thought was finishing it. Pleasant surprise actually, I really like Fraser Irving. Donny Cates is finishing up his run on Doctor Strange, and this story is kind of like a nice little bow. It is Zelma coming back to confront the Doctor, and she finds SpiderMan in his house. They go and they talk to Doctor Strange. He's a veterinarian. You know, if you've been reading this book, it's really cool. The reason why I'm talking about this book is because, number 1, I'm a big Spider-Man fan, and I like when he interacts with Doctor Strange in his book or in the Doctor's book. Again, I didn't know Fraser Irving was going to be doing the art, and I really enjoy his stuff. I haven't seen him in a while. With the exception of this one panel right here, he does a very good job. I like the interactions between the characters. Spider-Man's written pretty funny. In the first part of the book, he's a little goofier, and it makes his heartfelt conversation with the Doctor a little less likely to happen because he was so goofy in the beginning. Another reason I really enjoyed this book is there's a Chip Zdarsky piece in the middle. He does the art with Donny Cates doing the writing, and Peter Parker has a conversation with the spider. It's pretty neat and somewhat philosophical, funny. I like it a lot. So to close this one out, I really enjoyed this issue. It was funny like I thought it was going to be. There were some really good moments with the characters, and I like the art. Pick it up. Next up this week we have Silencer number 5. This is a DC comic written by Dan Abnett with art by Victor Bogdanovich. I really like this issue. I was almost to the point where I wasn't going to be reading any more Silencer comics, but man, this one really turned it around. The story so far. Honor is a former agent that worked for Talia al Ghul. She has a family now, and she doesn't want to be bothered by all the spy business that she was in, but she's getting drawn back in. This issue has a real big fight with her and Deathstroke. Deathstroke is actually trying to inform her that she's being duped by Talia. We kind of know that Honor is being duped by Talia, or at least we think so. This is going to be a whole mind game kind of book going on. Definitely if you enjoy that type of thing, this is one for you. The action in this book is excellent. The art is flawless. Victor does a real good version of Greg Capullo also. And I really enjoy that style of artwork. It really works well in here. I am not normally a fan of superheroes that are shooting guns, but you know, there's this whole spy thing, so I can forgive it. Silencer number 5 actually reinvigorated my enjoyment for this series. I can't wait to read the next issue, and it's actually making me excited to read other New Age of Heroes books. Speaking of the New Age of Heroes, we've got the Terrifics number 4 with writing by Jeff Lemire and art by Doc Shaner. He's a fill-in illustrator right now, but he does a fantastic job just like all the previous illustrators. This story is all about Phantom Girl. In fact, she's like writing in her journal, so we get a little bit of her thoughts. And we're going with the rest of the Terrifics to her home planet. There are problems that occur along the way. There's not really much to tell you about that. The action is good. The story is just fine. I really liked it. It's all about the characterization. These characters quibble and fight, and they can't separate for any distance more than a mile, or else something horrible is going to happen. So they're stuck with each other. This is a good book. I liked it a lot. It's really fun. Anybody can read this book and get enjoyment out of it. I highly recommend the Terrifics. Next up this week we have Justice League No Justice number 3. For those of you that don't know, this is a weekly mini-series with only one more issue to come out. I'm really looking forward to that one because this issue was so darn good. Right off the bat, there's one thing that's different from this issue than all the others, and that's the artwork. Francis Manapul only does the breakdowns, but that's okay because Marcus Toe fills in, as does Riley Rossmo. In fact, Riley Rossmo has this one Wonder Woman page that has been met with some criticism on message boards. I personally think it's fantastic. There's definitely a Frank Miller aspect with this Wonder Woman page here, and I really think it's excellent. In fact, it also reminds me of a little bit of a new illustrator named Michelle Fiffe that's out there, maybe just a little bit more detailed. Anyway, this page is fantastic. In fact, a lot of the Riley Rossmo pages are fantastic, and I just dig this artwork in this book quite a bit. Now, let's get on to the story. Brainiac had gathered superheroes and supervillains and separated them into 4 different teams so that they can tackle 4 different trees on Kolu, his home planet. And what they have to do is activate these trees. The thing I really liked about this story is that in order to activate these world trees, we've got all these different characters meshing together. We have a different dynamic with heroes and villains and people that don't get along with each other. Case in point, we have the Cyborg team, and Harley Quinn actually comes up with a crazy idea on how they have to operate this world tree. Cyborg has a really cool scene that goes along with that. I really like the character interaction. I like the fact that this story is chugging along. It feels like there is going to be a lot of solving that needs to happen in the very last issue. I know that there's going to be more Justice Leagues to come. They're probably going to tie in with this. But as far as wrapping up this 4-issue miniseries, I question how they're going to do it, and that makes me excited to see the 4th issue. I recommend this issue and this whole series very much. You should pick it up. Last up this week we have Black Panther number 1. This was a top-selling book in the store, and it's written by Ta-Nehisi Coates with art by Daniel Acuna. And it continues the story of Black Panther, but out in space. Here, let me read this little opening passage to you right here. 2,000 years ago, a detachment of Wakandans established a small desolate colony on the outer edges of the cosmos. And this opening page is fantastic. It really gets me excited to see what happens. The only question I have as far as this story is concerned, was it 2,000 years from now? Or 2,000 years ago they went out into space? Because the main character that we're following, we'll call him the T'Challa of the story, is a prisoner, a slave if you will, and then he escapes, and there's all this action going on. But I'm not really sure if this is happening now or it was happening then. People's names are stripped away from them, so we don't know who really is whom. If this is maybe T'Challa in the far future, I have no concept. But I do think it is T'Challa, because in the very beginning we see him dreaming of a silver-haired black woman who, to me, must be the artist's interpretation of Aurora Storm, from the X-Men, his former wife. So he is trying to get back home. At least that's what I personally thought. There's some discussion I had with other people in the store whether or not that's what is actually going on. So Black Panther, it's confusing, kind of like most of the Ta-Nehisi Coates run prior. Unlike the other Ta-Nehisi Coates books, this has a ton of action in it though. And if you're into superheroing in space, this is definitely a book for you. If you want to have a mystery that's unwrapping as you read, unveiling itself to you as you read along, this is definitely a book for you also. And if you're a fan of Ta-Nehisi Coates, you should be picking up this book. So Black Panther number 1, it was our top seller, you should pick it up. Do you think there are any comics that I should be paying attention to? Is there something you'd like me to review? Please let me know in the comments down below. And now let's check out books I'm looking forward to. First up this week we have a bunch of DC one-shots. It's going to take their superhero characters and combine them with Hanna Barbera properties. The one I'm most looking forward to is Black Lightning Hong Kong Phooey, #1 super guy. It's going to have art by Dennis Cohen, who did The Question way back in the day. I'm a big fan of his stuff. He's fantastic. Also, Brian Hill is doing the writing. He is going to be taking on Detective, which is also going to have Black Lightning in it, so I guess this is his big first run at writing that character. I'm looking forward to this one. There's a couple others that are coming out that I'm looking forward to, but this is the one you should definitely pick up. Next up we have Doomsday Clock #5. It seems like it was months ago since Doomsday Clock #4 came out. There's been delays. It was already announced that it was going bi-monthly, and then it even got delayed a little bit more. But finally, rejoice, #5 is coming out. I want to let you know, if you haven't been reading the series, it has been fantastic. I know there's Alan Moore issues, but forget those. The art is scintillating. Gary Frank is doing the best work he's ever done, and I really like Jeff Johns' interpretation of the Watchmen characters and how they're coming into our DC universe. That stuff's really great. I have been really enjoying this series, like I said. You should pick this one up. They've all been selling very well in the store, and I usually sell out and have to do reorders, so pick this one up while you can. I like it a lot. Next up we have Star Wars Lando, Double or Nothing. It's a mini-series coming out featuring a character in a movie that came out not too long ago. Maybe you know him. Lando Calrissian. I guess he's new. Something like that. Anyway, any fans of Star Wars or the coolest cat in outer space should definitely pick this one up. I don't expect it to stay on the shelves long because it always sells out. I mean, Star Wars, that is. Next up we have Amazing Spider-Man #800. This is the last issue of the current run before the new team starts over with a new #1. This is written by Dan Slott. It's his last issue, and it's drawn by Stuart Immonen. Again, his last issue. In fact, Dan Slott's been writing this book for 10 years, and like anybody who's been doing anything for 10 years, there's been some good, and there's definitely been some bad. Mostly good. I personally have enjoyed almost the entirety of his run. He's always teamed up with good illustrators. Stuart Immonen is probably the best one he's ever worked with, and I really enjoy his work quite a bit. This is the Red Goblin storyline. Norman Osborn has taken the Carnage symbiote and has ingested it. He killed the nanites that Spider-Man Peter Parker had put in him so he couldn't turn into the Goblin, and now he's the Red Goblin. And at the end of the last issue, he took his grandson and infected him with the Carnage symbiote also. So there's a lot of fun action going on in the story, and of course I'm sure there's going to be a lot of emotional aspects to it as we're seeing the end of a person who really enjoyed his time working on this book in Dan Slott. So his centennial issues are usually quite big. I know this one's going to be pretty expensive, but usually in these you get quite a bit of story, and I'm looking forward to it. So Amazing Spider-Man #800, it's the last issue until the first one. Pick it up. Last up this week we have Man of Steel #1. This, stop me if you've heard it, is a weekly mini-series. It's going to run 6 issues in total, and they're going to be all written by Brian Michael Bendis, who is the new Superman scribe. He's taken over control of all things Superman, and each issue is going to have a different illustrator. The first one is going to be Ivan Arias. I expect really big things from this series. In fact, Bendis, when he comes in and does something, he usually tries his best to do things as big and as different and as universe altering as he can, at least within this character that he's dealing with. That's not always something I enjoy, and Bendis isn't always the person that I love that does these types of things, but he definitely brings an air of excitement to anything that he jumps on. So this, at least for the 6-issue mini-series, which is again coming out weekly, is something you should probably pick out just because it's going to be A kick in the pants, a kick in the Superman pants, if you will. Thank you everybody for tuning into another episode. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you really enjoy it, please share it with someone you like and that you know will like this video. And if you haven't, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next week.